Imagine spending $50,000 on a beautiful, custom cedar siding renovation, only to find that every morning, your walls are dripping wet despite it not raining for weeks. My neighbor, Mr. Henderson, was a petty man who hated that my house looked better than his. He had installed a commercial-grade agricultural irrigation system and accidentally aimed 2 high-pressure heads directly at my home's foundation and siding. Every night at 2 in the morning, while the neighborhood slept, my house was being hammered by a simulated rainstorm. I asked him to adjust the heads, and he just smirked, saying they were stuck and he'd get to it eventually. He was playing the long game, waiting for mold and rot to destroy my property value. Welcome back to Karma Files. My name is David, and I'm a mechanical engineer specializing in fluid dynamics. Henderson thought he could use water as a weapon. He didn't realize I could use physics to strike back. I spent a week documenting the damage. The moisture was already beginning to seep into the subflooring. I didn't call the cops yet, and I didn't touch his equipment. Instead, I installed a series of decorative architectural panels along my property line. To anyone walking by, they looked like modern, angled plexiglass art pieces. In reality, they were precision-engineered parabolic reflectors. I waited for a night when the weather report predicted a clear sky and 0 wind. That was the night Henderson decided to leave the convertible top-down on his vintage Porsche 911 to let the leather breathe after a car show. At 2 a.m., his sprinklers kicked on. But instead of soaking my cedar siding, the high-pressure water hit my parabolic shields. The water didn't just stop. It was redirected in a perfect, high-velocity arc across the fence line. Because of the angle I'd calculated, the water was funneled into a single, concentrated stream that fell directly into the open cabin of his Porsche. For 3 hours, his luxury car was at the receiving end of its own irrigation system. By the time Henderson woke up at 6 a.m., his car wasn't just wet. It was a literal bathtub on wheels. The leather was ruined, the electronics were fried beyond repair, and the wood-grain dashboard was warped like a piece of driftwood. When he came over screaming about vandalism, I simply pointed to my security cameras. The footage clearly showed that my art panels never moved. It was his own water from his own sprinklers that caused the damage. I told him that if he hadn't aimed his sprinklers at my property, the water would never have reflected back. I then handed him a bill for the moisture remediation on my siding. His insurance refused to cover the car because the damage was caused by his own unattended equipment. He tried to rot my house. He ended up drowning his pride and joy in 3 feet of water. Don't play with water unless you're prepared to get soaked. Subscribe for more fluid justice.